Good evening and welcome to the Friday edition of ANN7 Prime. I'm Peter Stemmett. Good of you to join us tonight. Remember, you can interact with us on Twitter at ANN7TV, and you can also find us on the web at ANN7.com, where you can live stream us, especially when the boss isn't watching. Tonight, I'm joined by our sports anchor, Benjamin Leshoro. Ben, your cricket team against my cricket team tonight.
Well, the good thing for my cricket team, Peter, is that we have a wicket already in the bag. Richard Levy of the Cobras already out back in the pavilion. So we will be keeping you updated on what's happening with that a little bit later.
Looking forward to that. And in business, Turin Cosway, all ears on what Fitch and S&P says about South Africa's credit ratings.
That's right. Good evening to you, Peter. I rather feel that South Africa is like a naughty pupil waiting outside the principal's office to hear what's going to happen to us. We expect those announcements from both those credit rating agencies this evening, so we'll take a closer look at what the possibilities are in 45 minutes.
Looking forward to that one. Now, let's take a look at the headlines that we're following for you at this hour. Eskom gives assurance that there will be no disturbances caused by power cuts during the festive season. Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe swears in members of a new cabinet, replacing ministers sacked earlier in the week. A wave of terror attacks rock Nigeria. Dozens are killed in twin bombings in the busy area of the Nigerian city of Jos. The South African leg of the IRB Sevens Rugby World Series gets underway in Port Elizabeth this weekend, with the Blitzbokke looking for a win on home soil. And after a technical glitch, London airports are back in action, but the movement is restricted. Many flights are delayed at the Heathrow and Gatwick airports. And if you're watching ANN7 Prime for the first time, let me tell you that every evening we give you an opportunity to interact with us via our ANN7 Prime question of the day. Should South Africa review its policy on negotiations with terror groups? That's the big question tonight. You can go to ANN7.com to cast your vote and be part of the program, and then we'll bring you the final outcome just before 8:30 tonight. Good evening once more, and thank you for choosing us tonight. It's D-Day for the South African economy. This as ratings agencies Fitch as well as Standard are set to review South Africa's credit rating. Fitch currently ranks the country's credit in the second lowest investment grade with a negative outlook. The ratings agency last week said government finances were moving closer to those of its junk-rated peers. A third cut in 2014 would weigh on the rand amid bets the Federal Reserve would soon raise interest rates. S&P, which is also set to publish its ratings review, ranks South African debt one level above junk with a stable outlook. Moody's downgraded the country last month to Baa2, the second lowest investment grade, citing slower economic growth and rising government debt. So not good news as far as South Africa is concerned. A couple of months ago, already being rated downwards by Moody's, and now the potential is there for further downgrades. However, it might not necessarily be that bad. My guest that will join me now will be here to unpack that story. Now, I mentioned I had a guest, and indeed I have Head of Economic Research at Clive Incorporated, Clive Ramathibela-Smith, joining me here in the studio. Clive, good evening.
Absolute pleasure, Peter.
Good of you to join us. All right, I'm going to go back to yesterday when you told me that it might not necessarily be such a bad thing if these guys downgrade us. In case someone wasn't watching last night, why is it not such a bad thing?
Two things are very important about this particular rating is that we have to be aware of what's taking place in the rest of the global market. And everybody is always looking at South Africa as if it's this island that's far away from reality. The truth of the matter is South Africa makes up part of the global economy. And not only that, we're no longer a small economy anymore. We're called a medium-sized economy. So that tells you that we are phenomenal and we're formidable. We've got the BRICS behind us, so we've got the bank coming up as well. So people mustn't look at us lightly. The problem I've got with these rating agencies is the models and the techniques and tools that they use to evaluate economies like ours. They have a look at things that don't necessarily apply to the rest of the world. So it's very unfair. It's like comparing oranges with bananas or oranges with apples. You have to have oranges with oranges and apples with apples. But if you look at South African economy, you can't compare it to anyone in the continent, because first and foremost, even though Nigeria has taken us over, has overtaken us as the biggest economy in the country, in the continent, it does not necessarily mean that we are becoming now insignificant. Second of all, you look at the global spectrum and you look at where, in actual fact, emerging markets are coming in. South Africa has a greater potential of growing because of its strong financial systems than any of those countries combined. So the question is, will Fitch and S&P look at the dynamics of the South African market, or will they concentrate on what they've already applied to the rest of the world? If they compare it to the rest of the world, they're going to have a problem because they're going to get it wrong.
All right. Now, something else that we need to touch on then is there will be people who look at a ratings downgrade and might look at it or frown upon it. So how do we get around that battle?
Look, at the moment, I don't think that they will look at us and downgrade us. They will keep us at the same. They'll come and say, well, you know, with caution, you must be very cautious when you go into the market. The people that concern us is those people that have what we call FDI, which is foreign direct investment, who are the people who actually put money into these type of economies like ours and actually expect to get returns over a long period of time. If these people look at what Fitch has to say this evening and say, well, you know what, in actual fact, the outlook is not that great. Maybe when the outlook is not that great, most of the time, I promise you now, Peter, when times are dark, opportunity opens. And so that's why I say, when you look at these rating agencies and how they evaluate the countries, if they say that it's negative, that's probably the opportunity for the FDI guys, the guys who come up with the monies, to put money in there to make sure that when the outlook is looking positive, they will benefit. I'll give you a typical example. You look at a company like Telkom, who have, for the first time, broken down the 40 Rand mark in their shareholdings. So now they're sitting at 67. Nobody would have put money in Telkom 2-3 months ago. Now, all of a sudden, they look most attractive to actually gain momentum going into 2015. So these rating agencies must not give us a despondent response. They must give us a positive one, because we feel that if they have a rating, then obviously our economy has some sort of value in the rest of the world, and we must put money there.
So we're not junk?
No, we're not junk, and we're not going to be junk. Despite what they think, I think the economy is still very strong.
All right, Clive Ramathibela-Smith, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, as always, for your time.
Absolute pleasure.
Much appreciated.